Alrighty, welcome everyone to Plastic Cards Podcast. We have a very special episode today. We're extremely lucky to be joined by the one and only Double D, Mike Doherty, aka Cheeks Jr. on Twitter. He's the founder and channel manager of Play Everything Productions, video editor, producer, content creator, you name it. He's also the host of Tech Fever Podcast, hottest tech podcast on the internet. You can find him weekly with the gaming podcast Invite Only and Tech Fever on youtube.com/playeverything, as well as anywhere they sell and make podcasts, wherever that happens. Mike Doherty, how the fuck are you doing?
What's up, players? What's going on?
My first question for you is, did Carol Blaskins kill her husband, and where did she hide the body?
You know, it's one of those things. Possibly she's not convicted. They opened a case. It's a closed case in my book. She didn't kill him. You know what I mean, they didn't find anything. You know.
Okay, so you're also like, hey, OJ might be innocent. Like, where do you lie on that?
He wasn't convicted, you know?
Damn.
And that's where I stand.
I need you as my lawyer, man. That's
the law of the land. That's really what it is.
Okay.
Nothing was found. She was not convicted. OJ, same thing. You know, so that's kind of where I fall on that situation.
All right. I
really
respect
pressing question.
I thought it was a shoe-in. Like, I watched that podcast, or that documentary is like, oh, what are we still doing here? She obviously fucking did it. Like, throw her away. But okay, yeah, you're right. She didn't prove it in the court of law. I don't know. Seems like that whole case was like messed up to begin with. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. Obviously the joke answer, but no, that documentary is insane.
It is, right? Like, I think I watched the first episode. I was doing something else. I was like, it sounds crazy. By the second one, it had me locked in, dude. It's so nuts. It's like you couldn't write it weirder than that.
Yeah, it's just the breed. Like, we are meant for coronavirus. Like, we are built. It's not going to do anything to us with people like that here, breeding, making kids, because it's like the girl who got her leg ripped off or arm.
Oh right, yeah.
Back to work on Monday. You know what I mean? And that's dedication, that's productivity, and we need more of it.
You're right. I mean, they're going to outlive us all. They're going to be, they're going to take over the world as Corona wipes every good-hearted person or normal person. It's just going to be fucking Tiger Kings everywhere.
Yeah, Carol Baskins everywhere.
Yeah.
The girl who had her arm ripped off by a tiger.
I wasn't mad at Tiger King's drip, though. It was nuts. It was his wardrobe, but I was like, okay, I was actually, I started Googling, fluorescent colored like jackets with the things hanging down. I was actually looking into it.
You gonna start dripping like that, dog?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. He's at the top. I'm trying to represent. But
that's right. Those are my people, so I feel like I'd be able to fit in real well with that kind of drip.
Are you from Florida?
No, white people.
Gotcha. You know what?
Florida is an especially potent kind of white person.
Yeah, they're like how we think of the Vikings. I feel like Florida is that. They're just like these weird, like, just kind of creating their own culture. They're going to survive everyone because they're just I don't know how they're making it.
Different breed. It's the meth and the cocaine keeps it really just does something to a person. Different species, really. Floridians.
Pretty much. Yep. And aliens are going to land there somehow, and they're going to talk to them first, and yeah, that's how it's going to go down. Well, Mikey, I really appreciate being on here, man. I wanted to kind of pick your brain about you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber. I want a content creator. I want to pick your brain about that, and end it on talking about some game stuff, because we also do that here at Plastic Cards Podcast, and just kind of pick your brain about some of the latest things that are happening. We're on the cusp of next gen, or so we think, with the whole Corona stuff, throwing everything out of whack. But yeah, I want to get your take. What are you playing lately? Just kind of jump into some of the game stuff.
Man, I have been down. First of all, thank you for having me on. I love doing this kind of stuff. When you reached out, I was stoked to do it. So anytime. But yeah, so I've really been down the COD rabbit hole right now. Big time. Since Modern Warfare 2, I haven't been so in love with the Call of Duty game. And then now that they even added the Warzone, even before that, I just every night it's like my junk food right now. Gotcha. Easy to jump into, especially when you got people to play with. Warzone has just consumed a lot of my gaming, and I just finished Doom. So nice. Those are the two games that I've really been playing. I'm going for the Doom Platinum. That's my goal. We'll see if I get there. I feel like it's really achievable. Luckily, they didn't put any bullshit difficulty trophy in there.
Right. That's what I heard. And I was listening to some of your podcasts recently. I want to say it was That Kid Flowers giving you shit for like using the closed like multiplayer group to do some of the achievements or.
Yeah,
Uh,
look, look. Sean Flowers is what I call a coward. All right, he will say anything to deflect from himself and his
right.
own flaws, and not ever finishing a game. So I just got to get that out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I loved hearing that. Just the infighting there with that. But yeah, no, I heard the same thing with Doom. At least they give you that little bit of a break that you can kind of create the lobby and at least find people like on Reddit that want to do the same thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Doom typically is a pretty crushing platinum to get. At least the first one was.
Mm,
You have things like in The Last of Us. I would have loved the platinum The Last of Us, but obviously my skill level wasn't there, nor my time to be able to go through the ultra real mode to get that trophy, and then all the multiplayer trophies. It's like I feel like they gave you the right dose of okay, here's the multiplayer trophies, but they're not that hard to get on your own. And if you want to do the private lobbies, you can. And then the difficulty, obviously, you have the ultra hard mode that all Dooms have, but you
yeah,
don't have to play it to actually get the trophy.
I appreciated that for sure. Nice, nice. I'm also balls deep in Call of Duty right now too. I really love it. This one latched onto me as well, way more than the previous ones have. Something about the Warzone mode also like just it's a great take on battle royale. Like that's what I've been wanting for a while. I never got into PUBG, so this is kind of like my real like connection to this kind of style.
It's what I've been saying this a lot. It's what I wanted PUBG to be.
Mm,
Now I got on the PUBG train when it came to console, because I was waiting for it to come to console. It was a fun game, but it was just felt like shit. Like it just it didn't play the way I wanted a shooter to play. It was just clunky. It took a while to pick things up. The actual aiming accuracy was kind of off. Just the shooting didn't feel that good. And obviously, Call of Duty does all those things really, really, really well.
right.
So when you have a game that is so fine tuned like that, and then they put it into a formula like PUBG, which they tried before, which didn't work. I feel like they finally dialed it in and they really got it to where this is everything I wanted PUBG to be, to where it is a realistic shooter, battle royale shooter, and it everything PUBG did wrong or failed to do or just didn't do that great. I feel like this does really, really well.
I would agree with that. Yeah, especially it's such a beautiful game too, and it's like using that same engine. It really doesn't have to downgrade very much. I don't notice it. It's super beautiful. There's like 100, 200 people. I can't remember the actual player count anymore, but it's such a huge map too. I kind of am astonished that they can pull it off, but they do.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I'm excited to see how the game adapts. Like
Mm,
I've been saying this for a while. I want them to take out kind of the meh parts of the map. Like, this is gonna get different for people who do play, but like dam or hills, and kind of put in like Rust and Nuketown, and like because they already do that with the map itself. They take other parts of
right.
multiplayer maps and they put them into the game. Now I want them to expand on that, take off the kind of meh parts like dam or hills, and then be able to put in places like Nuketown or Rust, which I think would be really, really cool.
Although Newtown with more people sounds even more insane, but
Yeah.
that'd be pretty dope.
Well, like just like a section of the map, I think that would
Sure.
be really cool.
Gotcha, gotcha. Nice, man. Well, yeah, so we're playing some games. We're doing the podcasting thing. So I want to pick your brain on some of the stuff that got you to where you are now. So as far as the content creation, what got you into the game? What was some of your biggest influences? When did you decide like, hey, I want to do this. I want to start doing this.
Yeah, it's funny. I this is the story every time I talk about it. Where it is when I got into games really, really early on. I'm the youngest of six kids, right? So I always got the hand-me-down consoles. I had the PS1. I played the crash. That's where my Crash Bandicoot obsession came. I only had what was handed down to me, right? So I got into games really, really early on, and about second, third grade, I was like, man, I really, really want to do this. Like, everybody always asks you like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And at the time, playing video games wasn't really a option. Like that wasn't like something I
Yeah.
want to play video games. Like realistically, because a critical thinker as a kid, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, look, how can I get into video games? I was like, oh, I got it. I will do art for video games. So I kind of dabbled in trying to do like artistic stuff, reading video game books, taking some art classes, things like that. And I have no artistic talent in terms of drawing or anything like that. So I was like, ooh, this isn't gonna work out. I really don't have like the fortitude to be able to do that. I was like, okay, what else can I do? Oh, programming. I could program a video game, right? Easy, right? How hard could it be? And then I get into middle school and I just can't. I take a couple of the programming classes. I realize it's a lot of math.
Yep.
That is my worst subject. I always found every way to try to like take a shortcut in math class and get out of it. Even into university, I even took like the business math, or like the math without it being math. So I
Oh,
was like,
sure.
hey, yeah, programming's not going to work for me either because that's a lot of math and I hate math. And then in middle school, I was in my CAD 3D class, and I was kind of just clicking around the internet trying to find something to listen to while I'm doing the work. And I found a podcast called Podcast Beyond. And from that point on, I realized, oh, I could talk about video games. Like I could be part of that world in terms of like the media aspect, and not even necessarily the talk. I didn't want to do the writing, right? I didn't want to be
Yeah.
the actual journalist, but the actual discussion part, right? The podcast form, which it was very very small at the time. I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to be able to do. And then as time's gone on, I the landscape has shifted drastically, but also what I wanted to do kind of shifted drastically, right? Where it is, I don't necessarily want to work for an IGN, a GameSpot, whereas creating the channel, that's what this was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a portfolio, essentially, right? Where after I finished college, I could go back and I could go, hey, look at this 4 or 5 years of work I've done of consistent, this, and this reviews, podcast, gameplay, whatever it is. And then as time went on, I was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to work for one of those companies necessarily. Now, I'm not saying I would never take it, but it's definitely more of a thought now than it would have been at the time. Um, so it was just building toward that, right? So everything there's another channel I did in high school, where it was basically I would go to like the Last of Us launch or the PS4 launch, or that's a little bit later on, but like all these launches, right? Midnight launches, and just make these videos or cover E3s, things like that. And then it turned into what Play Everything is now.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, I mean, it seems like from the get go, though, you were really trying to build something. Was it YouTube was the thing you geared towards first, or was it just like the audio side of it, or you really thought, oh, I got to pair the visuals with this kind of thing?
It was YouTube. I've always been a YouTube kid, in terms of like wanting to. Now, there, even before the high school channel, there's another channel back in like early elementary school. Uh, so bad. You could still find these videos. I can't delete them. I can't. I tried to forever and with it.
Yeah.
But it was called PS1777. Again,
Catchy. Yep.
dumb. Yeah, real brand friendly. It really it catches your attention. Um, but I would be doing like dumb like jackass videos essentially.
Mm.
So I always had an interest in it in some way in terms of the YouTube side of it. But to be honest, it was never toward building anything. It started as, like I said, like a portfolio more than like trying to like do something on my own, and then it evolved into I want to do my own thing. Like, and IGN's, the GameSpots, they're great, but it's not yours, but not even not yours, but it's not you.
Mm.
You can never be you at those sites, no matter what. There's just no site that's a viable business right now that you can be 100% unapologetically you, and not be censored in some way, or not have to do. You have to do things you don't want to do. There's going to be a video you're going to have to do as a host that you're not interested in, right? And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with completely consensual. When I have people on there, I don't want to just have anybody on, right? I want to have people I'm interested in on. I want to talk about things I'm interested in to talk about. So that was the big thing for me, the big shift, for me, where it's like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to do other people's stuff. I kind of want to do the stuff I want to do. Now, where it pans out, I don't know. That part of the chapter isn't written yet. But that's ultimately the goal, right? Is just want to make cool stuff with cool people and talk about interesting things I'm interested in.
That's awesome. Did you see a lot of writing on the walls? I imagine were there some influencers that you thought, or like podcasters, that kind of thing, that were doing that and changing gears and doing their own thing, taking control over their own like narrative and stuff? Were you seeing some along the way and go, you know what, I gotta try the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. When obviously, I feel like there's an obvious one for a lot of people. It was kind of funny when kind of funny was not just them. I'll name a couple, but kind of funny was the first one, at least in the gaming sphere, where it was like, oh, old media is kind of dead. Like, it makes a lot of sense why they'd leave, because obviously you are handcuffed a bit, especially with different acquisitions. You'll see them go censored and then non-censored and then back to censored. I just been such a big listener of IGN from the early days that you really saw those transitions. Like, I'd always say, like, every couple of years they'd switch from non-censored to censored and then back again,
Mm.
and then now they're firmly in the censored part, right? They were the first ones, and then the streaming boom kind of hit, where then you see all these streamers who play games, which that's not necessarily what I want to do. It's something I definitely like to dabble in, but it's just not my scene. Like, nobody's gonna watch me play Crash Bandicoot for 12 hours.
You never know.
uh, I mean, there's definitely an audience, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't even know if I would enjoy that, because that's the kind of hustle you have to have as a streamer. It's different than a
Sure.
podcaster, where it is you are putting in 12-hour days, like day after day after day, right? That's how you get noticed. That's how you get big as a streamer. Whereas a lot of these people will do an hour a couple times a week, and then they'll be like, why aren't I getting big? Why aren't I getting subs?
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Because they're entitled, right? They think it's easy, and that's the thing with what we do, or what streamers do, is people think it's how hard it could be. It's easy. I'm gonna put in a couple hours a week, and then there we go. Like, I'm gonna
Right.
get big, and then they don't, and then they get bitter and they get mad. Um, so that's the big thing for me. Where when I saw Kind of Funny do that, it was like, oh, okay, the landscape's really changing. Whereas IGN's not the wild wild west it was that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
And then as I've gotten more into podcasting, another big influence was Joe Rogan. Now, to me, that the way Joe Rogan thinks in terms of podcasting or doing his own stuff is what I aspire to be, right? Where it is, he doesn't act, he doesn't do anything extra he doesn't want to do. And the reason and then that allows him to pour all into the three things he really likes doing, right? And that's the way I kind of want to be, is I want to pour all into the three different things I want to do. Now, obviously, it's a little different because I have a full-time job. So I can't pour in as much. Like that's the one thing that I really feel like if you had the opportunity to pour all in to the one thing that you want to do 100%, you will make it. If you 100%, that's what you want to do. Like, for a fact that's your dream, that's what you want to do, and you want to chase it, and you have that drive, you'll be able to do it if you have the time. Now, what's tricky is when you don't have a time and you're working a job and you're doing this side hustle. It kind of just consumes you.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, no, you hit the nail right on the head. Especially with like with me, I have the same influences, the same upbringing with podcasting, with IGN, and then kind of switching over to Rogan and realizing like there's this comedic side of podcasting too, which he kind of blew the doors open with that, and now I'm a huge fan there. Is maybe off screen? Do you have your own bow hunting range in the background there? Do you have your own like workout session thing going on in the back?
No, 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 not at all. I mean, my hobbies are obviously like video games. I love things like camping and, like, um but mine are definitely more nerdy than someone like Rogan, where he is like exercise, UFC,
Yeah, for
bow
sure.
hunting, and comedy, right? I definitely have the comedy aspect, obviously not practicing it, but consuming it, right? I love I'm I don't know the right term. I don't want to say historian, but I am,
Aficionado, maybe.
yeah, an aficionado in comedy, right? Like I said, not the practice, but the actual consumption of it.
Yeah.
So I love comedy. I love video, like the outdoor, camping, on that side, right? Um, Again, I don't have a ton of hobbies like Rogan, but those are the things I really like to pour into. But I mean, my calendar is usually busy. Like before the whole coronavirus thing happened, there was a point where I was working a second job at this game capture place, or this production studio in games, like for video game trailers, things like that. I was doing my
Nice.
full time job, and I was doing the channel, right? So it's one of those things where it's like you just have to put the pedal to the metal, and what sucks is you are going to have to make some sacrifices. But what's good about it is you figure out how to make it as efficient as possible. How do you make this as efficient as possible? And the more you go on doing that kind of schedule, the more tweaks and tuning you're able to do to make it run even smoother. And then the days get shorter, and then you're able to do everything that you need to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I feel like on our end, like you kind of learn from mistakes and failures, and you go, okay, this sucks so much, I can't do that again. Like I can't fuck up this way again. Maybe it was with audio or with video. It's like I've had those mistakes where it's such a soul crushing thing, like to lose, content or whatever. And it's like, okay, I have to check my P's and Q's and make sure this doesn't happen again. There's a lot of trial and error that you then I feel like you learn from, but it's like a just a way of the game where you have to lose something to like for it to be ingrained in your brain. Hey, don't fuck this up next time.
Yeah, I mean that on the producing side and on where it is really on the producing side that I've been trying to, I've been kind of teaching Tombo, our producer, like how to go through it, how to use all this equipment, right? After years and years of doing this solo, I kind of eclipse this knowledge of how to make things work, right? As like a producer, which at times I still stumble, I still don't know how to do certain things. But then again, you learn from it, right? And it is when you double click on a recorder and you miss, you miss the whole podcast, things like that. It's definitely happened. Tombo just had it happen to him, and I know it's not going to happen again because I know that feeling of, oh, I don't want to fuck up like that again. But
Yeah.
then on the on host side, where it is sometimes you get off and you're like, man, that was a bad show. Like it just happens. Sometimes you're like, man, I stumbled, I stuttered across this. I stumbled across this. I mumbled on this. It was low energy. I didn't like this. I didn't like how this conversation played out. I didn't like how, the other person kind of responded to this. I didn't like, it just happens. Right. And then as on camera, you kind of learn, okay, this is how I'm going to tweak this. This is how I'm going to avoid this. Okay. Slow down, pronunciate. Don't go so fast. As things that still happen to me. It, so obviously it's things that you're always going to have to be tuning up and going until you are a well-oiled machine, and then hopefully that's when you catch lightning in a bottle, and then that's when things kind of go the way you want to do it, as long as you've been consistent and you've been doing it and you've learned those lessons, and then that's when you can kind of catch lightning in a bottle.
No, those are wise words coming from Mike W. Doherty. I share the same. It's kind of the boat I'm in. Where it's like I'll have the same kind of situation where maybe it's like a bad show or whatever. I feel like I was stumbling and couldn't pronounce stuff or couldn't get my thoughts right. But I feel like when you're early on, there's a lot of like, hey, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, there's no one's listening, no one cares. It's like if I stop now, no one gives a fuck. But it's almost like it's on you, whatever you're doing. If you're in a band or something, like if you're doing a stand-up comedy, it's like you have to start somewhere, and you have to have some kind of drive to like keep you going, even though you suck, to know that eventually I will get better. But it's like you got to put the reps in.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly I conflate a lot of things to stand-up comedy.
Yeah, me too.
And I feel like podcasting, YouTube is very akin to that in terms of, yeah, when you start out, you're in a fucking shitty bar and no one's listening to you. And honestly, half the bar hates you. They don't know why you're there.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen to your stupid dick jokes. And that's it, right? And that's a couple years. Like if you're talking to any stand-up comedian, that's a good 10 years before you get good.
Yeah.
A good 2-3 years in open mics, and then like I said, 7 years where it's nobody gives a fuck about you, nobody really knows you. You'll build a little bit of an audience, but still it doesn't matter. Like you're still a dick telling joke comedian that nobody cares about.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. Maybe it's even more rough for podcasting for YouTube because you're just speaking into a void. And so at least when you're if you're stand up, you're doing these shitty shows, like you have an audience, you can kind of calibrate. Okay, I'm sucking here, no laughs here. You can adjust, and there's like a feed off of people. But here it's like we're just talking in a closet and hoping that eventually something sticks. It's just I feel like we got it. It's very unique kind of route to take.
Yeah, I mean, Yes and no. Like definitely is no audience to go off in terms of like that didn't work. I need to throw that out. I should punch up this punchline. But it definitely is okay, that video did good. Let's do more of that. Or this conversation, and then figuring it out. Okay, let me clip this part of the podcast and see what kind of response it gets, on like social media, Twitter, things like that. And you kind of play around with these formulas of how to be able to attract an audience. And then, like I said, it just depends on how consistent you are with it. But if something's working, you keep building on that. And again, that's something I still struggle with. Like for us, clipping out really worked. Like it really did get a lot more eyes on the podcast. Now it's okay. You're not going to have one of those every show because again, you're going to have shows like we talked about where it's like, oh, it's just kind of meh. And then you're going to have really great shows where like when you think back, that's one of the shows you remember and that you will remember forever. So it's this tricky balancing act of kind of figuring out everything. And yeah, at a point you are kind of talking into a void, and that's why it's so hard to do it solo starting out. Now I feel confident enough in my actual voice as a person that I could probably do a solo show at some point, but definitely starting, I definitely wanted people because I tried the solo thing for a long time and I couldn't find my voice. Like I didn't find my voice at that point. And then being able to bring people into the mix of it, like, Sean, like Andreas, Cynthia at one point, right? Being able to riff off those people
Right.
helps you find that broadcast voice a lot faster than if you're solo.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and that's what I love about your guys' stuff is that there's something about having a group around, and whether you agree or disagree, like riffing on each other and having these multiple points of view. It's just you feel that sense of okay, this is it's like a group of friends. Like I think a lot of people online are gearing towards more honest opinions, but also groups of actual people like talking to each other, hashing it out. Even reviews, like I prefer reviews that where it's like group of people actually dissecting it and having disagreements and like working it out in long form because you get to hear deeper thoughts. And maybe that's why I'm also a fan of Rogan's. Like he spends 3 hours with people whether they want to take 3 hours or not. It's like that's the way to get to know someone. It's like you take that time and you go back and forth. I think a lot of people are gravitating towards that content.
You can't bullshit for 3 hours. I mean, you can, but if you want to be noticed, you can't bullshit for 3 hours. You got to have your 100% unedited, unfiltered opinion, right? And be 100% you and not try to put on this facade, which a lot of people do. And early on, that's kind of what you do. I mean, that's just part of it, right? Same thing with stand up, right? When you start off in stand up, you kind of mimic someone or you take, cues from them. And then you get to the point where you're your own comedian, essentially, right? So yeah, when you are in a 3 hour podcast like on Rogan, it is definitely a marathon more than a sprint.
Right. And now talk about other outlets and stuff. Are you guys fucking with TikTok at all?
I like the dark side of TikTok. I really enjoy it. It's hilarious. It just shows you the mental collapse of America and the people that are walking among us, and it really makes you feel good about yourself.
Are you referring to like because I'm a fan of Your Mom's House and it's Christina Pajitsky. She curates these like really terrible fucking
Yes,
TikToks.
100%. That's what I'm
Okay,
talking about.
awesome.
I'm talking about the mental collapse of America is on TikTok, and
Yeah.
if you just search in the right spots, you can find it, and that brings me tons of joy. So yes, the dancing part, like when it was just the dancing thing, no attraction to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
The lip syncing, but when you have the meth head that is just talking nonsense with his two front teeth, and that's all the teeth he has in his head. That's the gold standard to me of entertainment in America.
No, it's yeah, I share that same love or cringe. It's like a love hate kind of thing. Who is that mysterious just
Sean Flowers,
dapper
Sean
young
Flowers.
man behind you? Was he downstairs? He's in the separate podcast room downstairs. Is that where you came out of?
No, yeah.
It looked like he just like was coming up.
Came up.
Nice. Yeah. I fuck around with him on
insane.
Twitter too. He's dope.
He's all right. All right. Let's not give him too much credit. He's all right at best.
And then before, I was trying to bait one of your co-hosts into a Corona challenge before the whole Corona shit went down, but it was just trying to mess with God damn it, I'm blanking on his name, Compa Andres. I was trying to
Yes,
just
yeah.
like trick him into doing some kind of drinking contest with me talking shit about Corona, and
But
then it got real with actual Corona. But yeah,
Andreas is a coward. You're gonna have to talk to Tombo. Tombo is gonna be the real one, man
no,
behind the scenes.
I'm not fucking with
I
him. I think he's legit, so that's why I was trying to
Yeah,
go after
yeah.
Compa
I
Andres.
like your strategy though, sir. I like your strategy because Tombo, my God, that man can take down a Modelo like I've never seen before in my life.
Damn. Well, respect. I have my one or two at the Mexican restaurant, and then I'm like, all right, it's time to party.
It's just a funny story, especially when we all lived together too. There's one day where I came home from work, walked into the studio. There was seven Modelo bottles on the table, like two finished roaches on like the little ashtray, and I'm like, what the fuck happened here? Like this is like a Tuesday, and then I turn around and Tombo's just passed out on the couch, just deep snore. I was like, oh my God, this man.
So I bet you guys interact, whether you actually live with each other there, or like are super in contact with each other often. How do you guys not want to kill each other? Like, how do you balance that?
Surprisingly, no. Surprisingly, we're not in super like there are times where I go days without seeing them, to be honest,
Gotcha.
where it is not all kind of over each other, where it is like Sean I'll maybe see for like 10 minutes of the day, like sometimes.
Yeah.
Tombo works early, so he gets home and he goes to bed early. Typically before all the Corona stuff happened, I had the night shift, so I'd get home around like 10 o'clock. So surprisingly, no, we don't see each other a ton, and I think that's why we don't all want to murder each other.
Right. Yeah. It's a hard balance to strike, but yeah.
And we all have a good relationship too.
Gotcha.
But definitely it is not like we're not constantly always seeing each other. We all have our own spaces, things like that. And then again, when it's studio time, it's studio time, and then we all kind of, sometimes we'll be in here, we'll all be playing video games in the studio because we all have our own little desk setups.
Gotcha.
So I like that time. But yeah, it's definitely not like 24/7.
That's cool. Now you talked earlier about kind of finding your voice. Did you always have a presence on camera? Did you always gravitate towards like, hey, I want to actually be in front of the camera? Is that something that you had at an early age, or it just kind of like grew over time?
Yeah, it was definitely. I think it's the syndrome of being an only child, or not an only child,
The
youngest
last
child,
one,
which is
you right?
basically like an only child. Yeah, the youngest of six, right? Is you kind of want the attention. Camera's always in your face. You're the loved one. You're the favorite. Rightfully so.
Right.
First six didn't work out. But yeah, so I definitely it was always an on camera or on mic kind of thing for me. And actually, in the last couple of years, I kind of evolved into kind of wanting to go behind the scenes a bit more. With like even if I were to work for an IGN or one of these companies, I would want to be a producer. I'd want to be able to do it because I have this skill set now, and
Gotcha.
that's what was important to me when I got serious about doing the channel. Is if I was going to do it, I wanted to make it one look good, two sound good, and three be able to use professional equipment. How often do you have access to professional equipment? Not often. So I bought a bunch of professional equipment, way more than I would need to actually do a channel, and probably wouldn't recommend that for everybody. But I wanted to be able to be, hey, if I apply for this job or if I ever need to do something behind the scenes for a company, I could just jump in, jump out, be able to, I know how to use switchers, soundboards, professional mics, professional cameras, which was grossly expensive. But at the time, I was thinking, okay, look, and honestly, I did a lot through actual student loans, which a lot of people will tell you is dumb. But in all honesty, with how low the interest are on the student loans, and if as long as you're not taking out, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000, you're good. The interest is so low on those loans. Whereas, like, if you are in college and you are going to be wasting that money anyway, because that's typically what dumb college students do, on beer money or on this or on that, or on a flat screen, whatever it is, invest it into whatever you want to do. And that's exactly what I did. Where that's how I bought the camera. That's how I bought the mics. And then now it's kind of coming out of my pocket. But at the time, it was okay. camera, computer, everything that you need to be able to run all the professional stuff, lights, um, even background stuff from the first studio, the studio before this. That's kind of how it was all kind of financed. And then, like I said, those interests are so low where it's something that it's super manageable.
Gotcha. No, that reminds me. There's a good conversation with Kevin Smith early on. He talked about, I think, funding not the first Mallrats, but that quintessential like movie he's known for, the black and white one. He talked about funding it by just buying a shitload of credit cards and or applying for them. And he's like, this is kind of like a bet on myself. It's like I kind of have to make this work, but I'm gonna acquire all this, do it. And then he also had the hustle behind it to then get that money, get that movie out, get it, all different like shows and stuff like that. But it requires like a big investment on yourself at some point.
Yeah, and that is a big bet, especially with credit cards.
And this is back in the '90s or whatever. But yeah, I'm not sure how they did shit back then. But
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's still grossly more. Like my student loans are like 2% interest. Where it's like, okay, I can do that. Like,
yeah,
very manageable. So, like, if you're listening to this and you are coming up and you're about to go into college or you're in college, it's a really really great way to actually take that gamble on yourself and be able to pay it back later. Um, I wouldn't do it any differently. Actually, one of the ways I kind of got a little bit more noticed was after I did the kind of funny live appearance. I then paid to go on their podcast originally, and then that was the best thing I ever did. And
yeah,
obviously, people are like, "Oh, that's stupid. You shouldn't do that." But like I said, you really do have to invest, get in where you fit in, essentially.
yeah,
And investing in equipment, investing in that stuff's all great. And then being able to do trips like that, even investing in trips to go network, things like that, I highly recommend it. Um, and find a way, especially if you don't have the cash now. It's definitely something that you can, if you have the income and you take out a small, 10 grand loan, something like that, where, don't be stupid. Don't take out like one of the predatory loans, but there's smart ways to do this financially where, even before I wasn't making, a ton of money, you're able to kind of just, you figure it out.
yeah.
At one point, you just kind of figure it out. If this is something you really want to do, really want to chase, you're kind of willing to make that bet. And I'm glad I made that bet. So don't be afraid if you're trying to get into this and you need a little loan. Take it out and then just be smart about your money, obviously. But
Yeah.
To me, it's 100% worth it to be able to learn how to use professional equipment, be able to learn how to do, kind of make it tying together. And in all honesty, you can start at a lot lower of an entry point than I did. Like I have a professional Canon cinema camera, a crazy PC, a great mixing board, pretty decent mics. Obviously, all this stuff will be upgraded in the future, but yeah, essentially.
Awesome, man. I mean, did you always have this sense of hustle? Like, did you ever half-ass anything in life? It seems like you're always thinking a couple steps ahead.
I mean, to me, it's just the prison of a mind that I have where I can't have. I mean, I can have ass things, but like I can't. Like I always have. Like with the camera, for instance. Like everyone's like, "Why are you getting this camera?" And I want to know how to use professional cameras. Two, like I starting off, I tried to go the cheaper route, and every time it fucked me. Where it's like, I want to do this thing. Oh, I can't do this thing because I have this thing. Oh, I want to do this thing. Oh, this thing won't let me do this thing because you have to do this whole workaround. It's a whole thing, right? I just like the easy, the streamline, like the super, super, just streamline process, right? So I paid more for it eventually. But yeah, definitely the reason I go so hard at it is because this is kind of all I have. Like essentially, like this is what my whole life, like I just told you, was all in on.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going all in on. This is why I moved into the area, the most expensive area to live in the United States, which is the Bay Area up by San Francisco. But I was in Southern California. I was a small mountain town. I probably could own a house by now. But this is the life I chose to live because this is how I was able to get connections. This was how I was able to plug in. This is how I was able to really make this work. And to me, this is just part of the journey to where it's like, if you really want it, you're going to go after it. If you don't really want it and you just think it would, you're going to burn out anyway. And that's what
Right.
that's my advice I always give people is keep running the race because everyone's going to stop. And eventually you're going to be the only one left for them to listen to.
Right.
And they're kind of stuck with you at that point. You know what I mean? But it's definitely one of those things where it's that's, in 5-6 years, you're still going to be going and you're going to have a little bit of an audience, and then that's going to grow and that's going to grow and that's going to grow because you're already established at that point.
Right.
Whereas everybody else burned out because everyone's, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. And then they realize how much goes into starting a podcast and how to not make it shitty and how to find a cadence, find the on-camera cadence, be able to find how to speak to a camera, speak into a mic, speak to people, how to make the conversation interesting, how to keep the conversation going. All that stuff is a skill. And a lot of people just think, oh, it's just me, fucking around on a mic, for an hour. And even though it seems that way, it's not that way at all. So that's really my mentality behind it, where it's by the time this is all over, you'll see, you already see it now, where there are places people move on, people, split up,
Yep.
people stop doing it, people stop getting motivated, whatever it is. To me, that is not an option because this is all I wanted to do, and this is it. Like this is it to me. There's no alternative now. Obviously, being able to diversify myself has really opened me up to be able to, I could go run production for this company. I could go do game capture for this company. I could go help out, in the production side of things, right? Or even like an IGN, whatever it is, right? But I definitely diversified myself more than just, oh, this particular channel needs to work out, which I have no doubt that it will. But there's definitely more to it. I was able to kind of expand in the games industry, but coming up here, I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know how, if I was able to get any of that. It just seemed so impossible. It seemed like I basically had to go work for an IGN. I had to go do this, and then just really expanding and learning to work with all this equipment has really opened up so many doors for me to where I'm not stuck in one place, and I can still do what I want to do, and I don't feel like a failure if everything doesn't work out.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you mentioned, and it's another through line that I always hear with stand up comedy. It's like eventually, after 10 years, they all look around and go, oh, this is just who kept doing it. Like, we're all successful. Obviously, we have to work at our craft and you have to be funny, first of all, like to start with. But it's like a lot of us just didn't quit. And that's how we kept going. I think even Rogan talks about, it's like one of the funniest dudes he ever met was in comedy early on. It's like a lot of them just quit. And so it's a matter of just like staying through and trying it, and continuing on.
It's the easy way out, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there are days where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is hard and this is time consuming, and I want life and I want to not thinking content all the time. But then you get over it. I mean, you just get, do you want it or not? I look at myself in the mirror, I go, do you want this or not?
Right.
Because you can not have it. That's the easy one. Not having it is the easiest thing to do. You could just pack up, go, you're done, and it's over. Like, you could stop at any time. But getting there, that's what's gonna take you to the next level. That's what you want. So you just kind of have to have your pep talks with yourself every once in a while of like, yeah, I could stop. Like, this is easily, I don't have to invest all this time, this money, this just constant mind of, oh, I got a podcast today, I gotta do this. But then you get in there. I was talking about this with Sean Flowers the other day, where you could be in such a shitty mood and you sit down with your friends and you talk about video games for an hour. Is that really the worst thing in the world? Like,
Right.
is that really so hard? I can't do it. Like, from the comfort of your own home. Like, that's what's crazy about it, where stand-up comedy definitely takes a lot more grit and grind than this does. And I'm here complaining about how hard it is and how like that time will definitely come where I can have definitely more of a life. Not saying that I don't have any kind of a life, but it's weird because it makes me sound like not social. Like, there's definitely I definitely have a social life, but there's definitely the times where I'm like, I'm not playing the games I want to play. I'm not going out and doing the things I want to do as much. Like, I'm definitely doing them every once in a while, but like, it's not like those people who have, the 9 to 5 jobs through Friday, and they have the weekend to kind of go do things, and they can go wine tasting, and they can go do this, and it's date night, and it's like, I just can't have that at this point in my life. Like, that's one thing where it is like kind of having like a significant other right now. it just doesn't work out right now. Like
Yeah.
at this point in my life, it's not happening because at this point it is so go go go, so grind, so hustle. And it's like obviously that is a piece I'd love to have right now, but obviously with the time and the attention that relationship takes, it's like you can't have it. Like at
Right.
this point, you have to work your ass off now to have it. And that's just kind of where you have to be sometimes. And sometimes you can have it all, and then sometimes you can't. And then sometimes sometimes this ruins that, and sometimes that ruins this. Like, and then that's where you see kind of everything blow up for some people. So
Right.
that's the hard thing to keep in perspective all the time. Where recently I've gotten very very good at kind of just going tunnel vision and getting it done.
Gotcha. No, I mean you have a good head on your shoulders, man. I really dig the way you look at it. You're thinking steps ahead. No, that's awesome, and that's the key. To you're only going to keep taking off because it's like you have that mentality. I imagine we say this, cut to you, footage of you like on the corner of the street. You just lost your fucking mind. You're in your undies and you just got a gun in your hand. You just said fuck it all.
Yeah, yeah. No, don't worry about it. You got as much time as you need with me. I love doing stuff like this.
Okay, well I'm gonna tell you the real thing behind Trump. Then gear up. Here's what's
Okay,
going
I'm
on.
ready. I'm listening.
No, got no conspiracy theories here, but yeah,
Me
I'm a big fan of them. But yeah. Alrighty,
too,
man.
man.
You know what? So I'm in the Northwest. Like I grew up really loving stuff like Bigfoot, and I'm at the point now where it's like if there's no legit footage of Bigfoot, just pack it up. Like come on, everyone has a phone. It's like we're done here. Some things I think we can send on the ship and light it on fire, just let it go away.
I mean, one thing you probably don't know, the twin towers are still there today, and you know,
Sure, they're holograms. Yeah, yeah, go for it.
it was all
Go
up.
deep. Yep. It was Nancy Pelosi. I know nothing about politics. I just hear all the like fucking the garbage everyone screams at each other. But yeah. So let's talk about something that no one disagrees about. Some video games. All right. So let's we got some next gen stuff on the horizon. So I guess just like overall, how are you feeling about us approaching next gen? Do you think like we're actually going to have these consoles in our hands come fall time? There's a laundry list of stuff. If it's not Corona, it's also Sony not producing as many PS5s, which has been in the news. Xbox Series X, they're showing everything. They have no plans. They have no backup, no plan B for not releasing this fall. Like, how do you feel getting closer to next gen?
I mean, I've been saying this a lot on our shows. There's no way. I mean, if it does happen, you're not getting one. Like,
Right.
that's kind of the mentality I have right now. It's not gonna happen. Like realistically, this thing's not going away. We
No.
have a year and a half for the vaccine, and even then, it's like there's still gonna be lingering time where it's like you don't want to take that right away. This thing's not going away. There's gonna be a second wave, and the production chain's already strained. You're already having a hard time getting electronics now, as it is, with things that are out like TVs that already been out and have been out for the last year already are having a hard time staying in supply. You're not getting your PS4 and your Xbox One, and if it does come out, you're still not getting it. Like you're still, unless you're super super lucky, you're not gonna get it. That's kind of where my mentality is. Where it's, I think they'd be dumb if they have to do a staggered launch, which Xbox's Phil Spencer's already said that he doesn't want to do. He's gonna have to do it, or he just push it back. Which the smarter thing to me would be push it back.
Yeah, I think even Sony, it was in the news recently, they have no plans of doing, they want to drop the PS5 for everyone all across the world, all regions at once. But if they're only making, what was it, 75 grand or like some small amount, it's like, who the fuck gets them? Austin Evan gets two, like when he unboxes them, like who's actually getting these consoles? You're totally right. I kind of, I pretty much agree with you on there. Then I imagine if we were to pontificate behind the scenes, why wouldn't they? Because these are smarter people, way smarter than us. Why wouldn't they just kind of gear towards that? Or are they really? Is there shareholder stuff in the way? Are they really like trying to just save their own ass? Why not adjust? Because they see the writing on the wall as well.
I'm sure that's what it is. It has to be shareholder, kind of a thing. I mean, PlayStation's a big part of Sony's business. I mean, that's what kept them alive in
Yeah.
2012. That's what kept them afloat. But when their TVs were trash, their cameras were subpar. Like Sony has a lot of good things working with it right now, a lot better than it was in 2012. But PlayStation still makes up a huge part of their business, where it is That's I mean, that's almost like a like retail losing Black Friday this year. Like a lot of retail is going to have a hard time losing Friday. They just are.
Yeah.
And that is honestly where they make their money is things like Black Friday. That's where the majority of their business is done. So cutting place PS4 or PS5 launch, that is a significant portion of money and stocks that they're losing out on. Because that's what drives hype. And so if you launch it and you kind of create this, to me, I feel like people not being able to get it is almost a good scenario for them because then it's like, oh, this famine mentality you see when you're going to
Right.
pick it up. But I feel like that's going to hurt them on software sales, which is where they make all their money. Which I don't know why they would want to do that because by the time people can get it, all of a sudden NAC 5 is cut in price significantly. And then now
No,
they're
not
not
Knack
making money
5.
off that software.
Yeah, you're. That's a very interesting point. It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. And I think a good tactic, if it is a tactic, is to kind of, and whether they can't produce as much as they want to in the first place. If you produce less, then you're not the news story isn't that it's not selling or that it's just more of like you can't get a hold of it, and there's way less pressure on these retailers to say like, hey, we can't sell this, or I mean, it's like the more of the narrative is like they're just not around to buy the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. You're losing so much money on software by doing that.
Yeah, that's what sucks, and especially with we talked about retail. That's we kind of can't plan on things like we used to. So with the next gen coming out, it's like they're planning on the huge retail side of it, but now you don't have that. So are they trusting like the supply chains like Amazon online, like Walmart online to like ship these things out? It's such a huge mess. It makes more sense to bite the bullet and to wait for an economy of an actual nation that can go back to normal like next year before you try and just shoehorn it in.
Yeah, it's a real bummer too because I wanted to plan a very, very PS5 launch event that I can't talk about because I don't know what's going on yet.
Gotcha.
But it was gonna be very, very cool. Corona happened, and it's like, I can't even do that anymore.
Right.
And then you're gonna see things like curbside, like Best Buy's doing it right now, where it is you just drive up and then they hand you the product right there after you ordered it.
Yeah, so someone else can stab you in your car as you get your PS5. Like,
So you're gonna see a lot more things like that implemented. But I don't understand their strategy, and I guess that's why I don't get paid what they get paid because I don't get what they're doing.
what does this mean for? This is another rabbit hole to go down through as well. But like, just on the surface, what does this mean for GameStop? Because they were really holding it together for next gen. I feel like this was their saving grace. Like as every year was like in the news, how it was just horrible year after horrible year. I feel like they were waiting for next gen, but now they're not going to have that retail bonanza like they were waiting for. So do they survive? I mean, they weren't going to survive no matter what. But it's like they can't even can they even hang on for this this next gen release?
Yeah, they're done. There's no way they survive this. If places like Best Buy were still doing the brand acquisitions like they did, like Magnolia Pacific Sales, I thought it would be a really cool idea to actually have them acquire GameStop and then put it, that store within the store idea where it's basically the gaming section is like GameStop, but it's like
Right.
different kind. It's like wood flooring and like it all look cool and things like
Yeah.
that. I feel like that would be like their saving grace, but it's definitely not going to be. I don't think anybody wants to touch them with a 10-foot pole. But yeah.
Well,
I
what
mean,
about
that's
Reggie?
just
Reggie signed on to steer the ship
he wanted
though.
to just make that money while that ship goes down, man. He wanted to ride that violin playing while the Titanic was going down, man.
Okay, so then my next thought as well is like if we're kind of gearing up to not have this big next gen release, part of me also I have an Xbox One X, I have a PS4 Pro. It's like I don't mind a lot of the releases coming out. I feel like they're still worthy of like we're still getting like top tier games coming out that last at the end of this generation. Like I don't mind waiting longer for next gen.
No, yeah, I'm not in a rush either. Uh, like there's not a lot that appeals to me about next gen other than like it's next gen, right?
Right.
But I mean, even like the PS4 when it came out, it was super underwhelming in terms of. I mean, it's the new thing, but I mean, it didn't have great titles. Like it took a while to actually start getting like good, solid titles onto the PS4. I mean, you
Right.
had Resogun in the beginning, you had Knack and Killzone, and then you had Second Son, and then it kind of just tapered off for a long while, holiday after holiday, and then you started getting games like God of War, Spider-Man, which just happened in the last couple of years.
Right.
And which tends to happen. I mean, PS3 had that, Xbox had that, Xbox One had that. I feel like it just kind of goes with the next gen thing, where I'm not super eager because they haven't really offered me anything yet. If Halo Infinite is really solid, which I don't know, I'm really weary about launch games because they're not ever good. They're
Mm.
kind of just subpar at best. So that's why I was really hoping when they announced The Last of Us Part 2 that that would have just been their PS5 launch game. Because that makes a lot of sense, because you want something, a big splash, one. Two, you want an amazing launch game to be able to sell your console with, like that everybody would want to go out and buy.
Yeah.
Halo, I think, smart. I just don't know the quality of that Halo that they're launching with, which I hope it's amazing. I hope it's really solid. But either way, it's Halo. It's going to sell. So that's the one thing I'm interested in terms of their strategy. But yeah, and honestly, I'm not interested in terms of like the offering, because to be honest, I don't know if Sony's going to have anything to offer in terms of software games, which is why you buy
Right.
the damn thing. So, but am I still going to get it? Yeah, I'm a shill. Definitely. I'm definitely a sellout. I'm not going to speak with my wallet at all. But yeah, at this point, I mean, what I've gotten, I'm satisfied with riding out until it is ready and I can get one easily available.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and that's where I wonder if all this worrying about next gen is all for anything. It's like I think our current consoles are fine. We're getting some of the best games now, but it's still on the company end. It's like I feel I don't know what to expect with them. Expecting to launch these things and they're not going to sell like gangbusters, and there's going to be delays of actual products. It's just we're in such a weird time now. It makes more sense to wait, for next year when you have a better economy.
You're going, we want to sell 1 million PS4s by this time, or PS5s by this time. I was fucked that up. 1 million PS5s by this time, right? And then when the quarter ends, and then you report the numbers and you go, we only sold 250,000. Great. How is that going to look right then to your stock?
Right.
Stock's going to go down. It's like, yeah, I very interested. I wonder if they're just trying to save face right now, and then later on, probably this summer, that they're announced that it's delayed. That would be my guess.
Interesting. I mean, maybe their strategy, at least on the Sony end, of not showing much at all is like help them, because that gives them the best opportunity to push it, because they haven't really, all they showed us was the fucking controller, and Xbox has given us this centerfold multi-page spread of everything. It's like they're really showing it off, but that might bite them more in the foot, because if we're getting towards a delay on these consoles.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox Series X, which is the stupidest name in the world. To me, their strategy is just very, very different. Their strategy to me is, hey, like, this is just the Xbox One X, just better. This is like the better model. Whereas PlayStation's going the more traditional route, where this is another console. Like, this is the next console. This is new. This is different. You can't play the new games on the old ones, just like usual. Obviously, there's some backwards compatibility, but not like a ton, and still very vague on what you can and can't do.
Sure.
So it's interesting to see how those different strategies are actually going to work out, because I don't think it's going to work out for Xbox like they're thinking it will. Again, the money's in the software, so
Right.
At the end of the day, I guess they'll still be winning, because they're still going to be selling those games on PC. But ultimately, what that's going to do is just going to have them kind of peter out on actually putting out Xboxes. I think, like, making it like this big thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's kind of frustrating seeing Xbox not give players an incentive to own an actual Xbox, and they're trying to be more friendly with consumers. I totally get that, because they've lost this gen basically, but it kind of spreads the market so thin where you don't need an Xbox. You really just have to have a PC, and then you get to play all these games. But that doesn't help them move consoles, though. But they're doing that because they've started this generation so on such a bad foot. They're trying to be more friendly with the consumers.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. They definitely screwed the pooch at the beginning of this generation. And I mean, they were even saying that you can play some of the new games on like the X or S, and it's like, at that point,
Right.
I'm just gonna keep the $200 console, the all digital, and then just play it on there. Like, why would I? The better thing, especially console gamers, where we don't, like, a lot of us don't care about, honestly, the teraflops or how the game runs, or like, that's why a lot of people play console, right?
Right.
Obviously, I care, so I'm gonna get the better thing, but but most people don't give a fuck. So it's like, why would they spend $600, $500, however expensive it's gonna be, um, on a thing that they don't have to buy?
Yeah, it's also it's an uphill battle where you have to explain to little Timmy and his mom. It's like, why do you need to shell out this money for this thing when it already works on your existing console?
Well, and they're trying. That's what's interesting is I don't. If PlayStation's selling like gangbusters and Xbox Series X's aren't selling as well, you're still gonna run into the issue where your stockholders aren't going to be happy. Like, they're just not, because your competition's outselling you. Sure, you're doing more on software sales, but that doesn't mean anything really in terms of like visually, in terms of how your business is looking. It just looks like you're getting ran over here. And sure, you're making lots more money on the software side, but you're still splitting that with developers. You're still splitting that with, it's, and again, console you're not really making money off of, but it's still the perceived idea of dominance. And
Yeah.
that is what capitalism is all about, is the dominance of your company, and then that's what gets you the bucks.
Right. Seeing that growth, so they can report growth every
Yeah,
year
you
and
always
year.
want to report growth. You don't
Right.
want to report that you're under your competition, and you don't want to report that you're not selling as many as you thought you would, because
Right.
definitely they're over projecting how many they're.
I would imagine. Yeah. Well, I mean, Mike, we're in a different weird time now. Let's end it on some happy stuff. Today's 420. We're at the end of it. We still have time we have a couple hours to still enjoy and participate in the holiday. Yes. It's the one and only Digo Double G. I'm gonna Photoshop some joints in your hands right there. But so as far as on the holiday that is 420, the Christmas for stoners, what are some quintessential weed games? I found myself racking my brain to find like some stoner games. Really, all video games are stoner games. It's like I'm trying to find that quintessential Harold and Kumar for like the video game scene.
I mean, Tony Hawk, like skating.
That's a good one. Yep.
I feel like they're really solid ones. But to be honest, I don't know how anyone plays anything high. Like Sean Flowers can just play stoned out of his mind. Same with Tombo. It's like I do not have those kind of motor skills to be able to play high.
Now, are they better or worse or the same as far as their skill goes? I
just can't play, so it's not bad. I'm just bad. Like it's just it's terrible. I feel like I'm drunk when I play. Like weed has a very different effect on me than most people. I do not have the motor skills, and also you have an hour before I'm asleep. Like every time you have an hour before I'm absolutely asleep.
Yeah, I'm in the same sort of boat where it's like anytime I've tried to smoke and then play, it's like I lose interest in what I'm doing. Like I'm always just kind of like my mind's going somewhere else. I'm terrible at what I'm actually playing. Like I feel like my skill goes down, but I guess I'm still having fun. It's just like I can never commit to anything, or I'm jumping around different games trying to find what game's gonna play better. And it's like for how I'm feeling, it's just I don't end up like mixing them as much as I would like to. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely music, definitely stand up. Those are kind of like my go-tos.
Yeah.
I try to do movies. I get lost in a little bit, man. Like
sure.
my head just travels. I definitely have a chattery head when I'm high. Music, it's funny because I don't listen to music, but when I'm high, music is like so good. But like normally I'm podcasts, and then when I'm high, podcasts make me anxious. And then music is kind of like the go-to, and then stand-up's a really good one. There's actually something I want to watch tonight that came out today. I don't know if you heard about it, Midnight Gospel on Netflix.
No, what is that?
It's Duncan Trussell's new show.
Oh, I saw him tweet it, but I didn't know what that was referenced to.
Bizarre. It is bizarre.
Is it a special?
Venture Time creator and him made the show. No, it's like a cartoon.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
The weirdest shit that you've ever seen, and I kind of just want to get super high tonight and enjoy that. I'm definitely more of like watching passive when I smoke than I am like active, like motor skills, things like that.
Right. No, that's dope. I'll definitely have to check that out. I didn't realize that. And that's such a great pairing because he's such a weird guy. He's so out there, but hilarious. So to pair like visuals to what he's actually talking, where there's no limits in what a cartoon can like think of and do, like that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super stoked.
I did think of like Katamari Damacy. You could probably, that's a good like, because that game's so fucking weird, and I feel like that pairs with like with stoner stuff, or even
Yeah.
Goose Game.
PlayStation Home. I'm sure
Yep.
that was a big one back then. But yeah, definitely like skating games kind of
Yeah.
give me those kind of vibes. Yeah, there's not a ton though.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I even thought like I played a lot of Control, and that's such a trippy game. But you can't. You got to be able to play it. So like if you're too stoned to actually maneuver around, you're just gonna die over and over again. But
Yeah.
that's another one I was
Play
thinking
that
of.
Jesus game.
Oh
Jesus
right,
game.
whatever happened with
Skate.
that? I saw like a trailer or an image or something.
I'm sure it's still coming. You know, I'm sure nobody cares and no one paid attention. That's why you haven't heard. But I'm sure that great game is great stoned.
I'll definitely. That's gonna be on my list. I can't wait. Can't wait. All right, Mikey, we'll let you go here. So, all right, Mikey, I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're such a cool dude, awesome dude. It's great to pick your brain and gain some knowledge. You know, your expert hustle level of YouTube is super dope, and so it's great to actually, hopefully, I actually latch on to this information and use it, and not just go, yeah, that's cool, and then go do something completely different. But
nope, no problem, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. I love doing shit like this, and like I said when you kind of hit me up, now is the time during the coronavirus to really just go at it, do what you want to do. So if you listen to anything I say today, that's definitely the one thing I recommend is just go hard at it.
Gotcha. Yep. Well, I'm gonna get that tattooed right on my chest. Go hard at it.
Go hard at it. I like it.
All right, Mikey. We'll make sure that they plug your stuff so they can find you on youtube.com/play everything. All right, your Cheeks Junior on Twitter. You got the Tech Fever Tech podcast going, and also Invite Only, which is also on Play Everything on YouTube. So yeah, anything else going on?
No, that's it. Come check us out. Come join us there. We'd love to have you. Comments, hit that subscribe, all that cliche bullshit. But I'd love to have you.
All righty, man. Well, yeah, once again, appreciate it. I'll let you go and just have a good one. Just celebrate that 420, and hopefully, you don't wake up tomorrow. I guess in a good way. That's really threatening to say. I was hoping that you just
you don't wake up tomorrow, you son of a bitch.
All right.
Have a good one.
So yeah.